Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. Everybody, I'm back. Good to be back. So want to go ahead and do some quick, immediate reaction to the Georgia-Clemson game. Georgia ends up winning, pulling away late. We're going to break it all down here. Before we do, should mention, as always, we are presented by our partner, Collie Puffs and ColliePuffs.com. This is the delicious, healthy alternative to your favorite snack foods. It's baked, not fried, avocado oil, but they still taste good. They're a puff, they're a chip, the snack that you want to keep yourself healthy, your kids healthy, your grandkids healthy. For more information, visit ColliePuffs.com, ColliePuffs.com today. All right, let's go ahead and dive in. Georgia versus Clemson, first top 25 matchup that we had all season long in the college football season. Georgia, 13.5-point favorite coming in. And ultimately, hate to say it, but the game kind of went as I said it would. Georgia, Clemson, back and forth early. Georgia pulls away late for a comfortable, easy win. Now, before we get into the nuance, first of all, let me give just a tiny bit of credit to Clemson because I'm going to criticize them here in a minute. But listen, they came out ready to play, right? Anybody who watched this game, first half, Clemson really had Georgia on the ropes, had Carson Beck uncomfortable. And at least for the first part of the first half, they were sort of able to move the ball. All these conversations, we wanted to see what does the second year of the Cade Klubnik, Garrett Riley relationship look like. Well, again, early, they're at least making plays, picking up first downs. I think to me, the crucial play for Clemson was what? Probably midway, late first quarter, early second quarter. They have the ball. They convert a big third down, big chunk play. Then they are called for an illegal formation. The play comes back. They have to punt the ball. Georgia gets the ball back. Georgia does only drive for a field goal, but that was when it felt like Clemson had all the momentum. They had Carson Beck shook a little bit. And next thing you know, Georgia puts 3 on the board. They put another field goal on the board, and they're up 6-0 at the half. Problem for Clemson. Again, thought they played reasonably well in the first half. The second half actually happened, and that was where Georgia absolutely pulls away. Listen, this is where the size, the speed, the depth of this Georgia team allows them to get a victory. So when I look at this game, listen, I think there's a few conversations, and I don't want to take away from what Georgia did. Georgia was the better team. I think you could tell the speed, especially on the edge. They kept giving the ball to the Smith kid, especially early in the second half. Clemson had no answer. And then, of course, Clemson ultimately had, you look at the speed for Georgia on the offensive side of the ball, but also the defensive side of the ball as well. It just felt like by the end of the game, Georgia had a million dudes in that backfield. But why I bring it up is because to me, what this game ultimately came down to, now Georgia's the number 1 team in the country. I'm not trying to dismiss how good they are, but Clemson was competitive with them for a half. Clemson cannot sustain that in the second half. And this goes back to what we talked about on the Tuesday preview show and in my picks at AaronTorresOnline.com. Clemson, their issue isn't frontline talent. Their issue isn't the ability to produce pros. The issue is depth. The issue is having body after body after body. The issue is not when you're playing Pitt or Boston College or Wake Forest in the ACC. But this is a team that just 3, 4, 5 years ago was competing at the highest levels of the sport. And I simply just don't believe that they have the depth anymore to continue to do that. Now, Georgia's a great team. And if you can hang with Georgia for a half, that's going to bode very well in an ACC where everybody's kind of up and down. We don't really know what to expect from pretty much everybody. Florida State's already taken a loss over in Dublin last week. But to me, what this comes back down to, I know Clemson fans are tired of hearing about it, and bluntly, I think the national people outside of Clemson are tired of talking about this specific topic as well. It is Dabo Sweeney's absolute refusal to use the transfer portal. And here's the bottom line. Listen, I don't dislike Dabo for doing it. I actually think it's noble. I give him credit. I love the fact that he says we are not aggressive in the portal because it is so disrespectful to the guys in our locker room. The guys in our locker room, we recruited them as high school players. We went into their homes as 16, 17-year-olds, and we promised this is the path. This is how we're going to develop you. By this time, we expect you on the field. By this time, we expect you to be a star. That's great. And what Dabo Sweeney argues is that if we start bringing in kids from outside the program, over-recruiting the guys that are already in the program, that's disrespectful, and that breaks the foundation of everything that we have and everything that we're about. The issue becomes, though, and I think it's only going to be a bigger issue as we move into this 12-team playoff era, you just simply don't have the depth that you need late in games against elite opponents. Listen, go back to the first half of this game. Again, Clemson was all over the field. Clemson had Carson Beck shook a little bit as far as I'm concerned. And you looked at that frontline talent, especially on defense for Clemson, and you said their dudes are every bit as good as Georgia's dudes are. We know how good Barrett Carter is. We know how good Peter Woods was, unbelievable, making all sorts of plays early in that game. We know, by the way, that TJ Parker is a freshman All-American a year ago on the defensive line. Wood as the linebacker that Greg McElroy and Sean McDonough kept saying that Dabo said, ask us more about this kid because he's a star. Nobody doubts that frontline squad. But the problem is you get into the second half, and we saw it. Nate Frazier, who, by the way, is Georgia's, probably third-string running back coming into the year. Well, guess what? Second half, he's taking the ball, and he's just running up the gut, picking up big chunks of yards. Not to discredit him, but it shows you the depth of Georgia. By the way, one of the big pop plays for Georgia that really broke open the game in the second half, it was when Dabo Sweeney tried to get Woodaz off the field for a play or two just to kind of get him a breather, get him some reps. And so when I look at Dabo's decisions on the portal, this is what it comes down to. It's not about, in my opinion, being disrespectful to your players, and you don't have to go into the portal and recruit the best of the best in the portal. But one thing you do have to do is you have to build depth in this portal era. And it's very simple mathematics. It's to quote my old buddy, JJ Redick, it's a math equation, F-head. And the bottom line is, listen, every team in this era is going to lose guys to the portal, okay? Georgia last year lost 20-plus players to the portal. Ohio State lost 20-plus players to the portal. But the difference between a Georgia and Ohio State and a Clemson is that Georgia, they're still focused on high school recruiting, but they might bring in 6, 7, 8, 9 guys just to supplement that depth. Look at the second half of this game. London Humphreys, a transfer from Vanderbilt, was the difference in this game in the second half, had a couple big catches, including a touchdown. That is a transfer. That's not a frontline guy. When everybody was putting together their top 100 transfers in college football this year, he wasn't number 1 or number 2, I promised you that. But it's the depth that he provides so that if there's an injury, if there's an issue, if somebody's just not playing up to expectations, you got the next guy up ready to go. And that's the part that Dabo doesn't understand. It's not just about the Caleb Downs type guys. It's not just about the elite of the elite. It's about depth. I'll give you a quick kind of random example. But Texas A&M, one of the things I thought Mike Elko did as well as anybody. Jimbo Fisher left the cupboard full, but the depth behind those frontline guys wasn't great. And I thought what he did a good job of, Elko this is going into the portal and getting a starter from an FCS school or a group of 5 school and saying, listen, you're not going to be on the field 90% of snaps, but you will have a role here. And that was how he built depth in an otherwise program that really was lacking it this offseason. By the way, we're recording here before Texas A&M plays Notre Dame, just worth noting. So with Clemson, it's not about the frontline guys. We know they're there. But you watch the end of the game, Georgia just wore them down in what was ultimately a 34-3 win. And I think this goes back to the portal. It's not about the first quarter. It's not about beating Pitt, Wake Forest, whatever. It's about, can you take care of business late in games, and do you have the bodies to do that? I don't believe Clemson has enough. Now, obviously, we know it's a 12-team playoff era. Clemson could run the table from here. Clemson could go win the ACC. They'll be the 3 or 4 seed probably. But the standard that Dabo Sweeney has set is not to make the college football playoff, even in the 4-team era. It's to win once you get there. And I just don't see a team that, look, we saw it happen against Georgia, but imagine getting that first round bye. Now you got to play Georgia in the second round. You beat them. Now you got to go play Alabama. You got to go play Ohio State. You got to go play whoever. And so this is what we're talking about when we are critical of Dabo Sweeney and his portal decisions. From the Georgia perspective, business as usual. Listen, I can criticize some of the Kirby Smart stuff in the offseason, but Trevor Etienne was suspended. That's a school policy, whatever. But at the end of the day, listen, that depth, came through. And I thought Carson Beck got more comfortable as this game went on. We all knew no Brock Bowers, what was going to be the security blanket. Well, Carson Beck seems just fine. So that's some quick, immediate reaction. We will be back with a full episode of the Aaron Torres pod here on Sunday afternoon, reacting more to this, reacting more to the rest of a busy week 1. Enjoy the rest of the day.